So I think eternal life was a quest for a very long time. And I think when people realized that was not possible, they took up weight loss instead. So, weight loss is the eternal quest now. And everyone's, are looking for that magic formula.
We are talking of weight as a concern, as the root cause, as the mother of all modern non-communicable disease. Public at large looks at weight as a cosmetic issue. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can see the firecrackers are still being burst in Delhi, which of course is fine, but really sometimes you get lost in the cosmetic part of the whole dialogue, of the discussion, and therefore we lose the real meaning, the essence of the thing. That is, we have now tools to address this excess adiposity. One of my patients who came to me and said, I said, "You're doing great, Mr. whatever, let's call him Chadda. Mr. Chadda, you're doing great. And you've lost 15 kilograms, your HbA1c is 6. And it couldn't be better. I haven't seen you like this in 20 years. Then he keeps the file down like that. Kya, Dr. Saab, my life is ruined. I said, why? Because my social life is gone. When I go out with my friends, and we all have drinks. We've been drinking for decades. They are my school friends. Now the sight of puts me off. So I've become a social outcast. And I have to spend all my evenings with my wife.
So, welcome to another episode of Three Techies Banter, the fun tech podcast where we make science and technology fun and conversational for everyone. We typically pick topics that are of general interest, scientifically complex, and then try and break it down for everyday consumption. So, I think eternal life was a quest for a very long time. And I think when people realized that was not possible, they took up weight loss instead. So, weight loss is the eternal quest now. And everyone's, are looking for that magic formula. And fortunately or unfortunately, there are medicines and that can do that. So we thought, why not, talk a little bit about it and understand what's right, what's wrong. And to do that, we have with us Dr. Ambrish Mithal. He is one of the leading endocrinologists in the world, specializing in diabetes, obesity, bone health, and he has patiently survived decades of Google searching patients. So, he's uniquely qualified to deal with this question. He's the chairman of Max Health in the endocrinology department. He's a Padma Vibhushan winner. And he's going to kind of dissect this whole thing between hype and hope, fitness, health, and everything. So thank you, Dr. Mithal, for joining us. And we are delighted to have you. Hopefully, this will be as interesting for you as it will be for us.
Before we jump into the questions with you, Dr. Mithal, I think Samiran forgot to mention one very critical thing about you. And that is that Dr. Mithal has written a book called The Weight Loss Revolution. And I think all of our viewers should pick it up if they're on the weight loss journey, as most of us are always there. So I'm sure that they will gain a lot from reading that book of yours too. So welcome to our show, and we're looking forward to a very, very fun conversation with you.
So, Dr. Mithal, I think you've probably been asked this question a million times now. So this whole thing around weight loss, who should take, who shouldn't, what's the world saying? So we just jump right into it before we kind of break it up.
Uh, Dr. Mittal, I'm going to actually step in here and say we're not going to start with that. Can you explain to us why there is this whole sudden uh, obsession with weight loss? That wasn't the case with India before. And I just want to kind of pull back a bit and understand, why do we feel this sudden need? Is it social media which is driving it? What is driving this weight loss obsession?
Well, thank you, Simran, and thank you, Sheetal, for having me here. It's good to be on a tech podcast. So I really haven't done that before. I've done all kinds, but this is a new one. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for all the kind words. Now, why has weight suddenly become so important? I mean, what's happened? Actually, if you go into the endocrinologist textbook, then weight has always been very important. Weight has been a challenge for us because the increase in weight of the global population, world population, including now in India and other developing countries, developing economies, is drastic. And you've all heard stories of how diabetes increasing in India, and India is the diabetes capital of the world. That increase in diabetes, early heart attacks, hypertension is driven by a common factor of excess adiposity, excess weight. So, as a medical concern, weight has always been a concern. So, there are two dimensions to this. We are talking of weight as a concern, as the root cause, as the mother of all modern non communicable disease. Public at large looks at weight as a cosmetic issue. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can see the firecrackers are still being burst in Delhi. Anyway, so public at large looks at it as a cosmetic issue, right? Which of course is fine, but really sometimes you get lost in the cosmetic part of the whole dialogue of the discussion, and therefore we lose the real meaning, the essence of the thing. That is, we have now tools to address this excess adiposity. So, why were endocrinologists were always concerned about excess adiposity? Is simply because I told you diabetes. For example, if you say, if you want to eradicate type 2 diabetes, if you eradicate obesity, you'll probably eradicate most of type 2 diabetes also,
Okay.
almost eradicate it. So everything, all these major disorders that you read about or hear about are linked to weight. So for the doctors, it's hugely exciting to have tools that can help you with that, right? For public, of course, it's very exciting to look good and go down a few sizes. So it's a win-win if used rightly in the right patient and under medical
So it's
supervision.
quite fascinating because most of the times people say lose weight naturally, try and do all kinds of things naturally, like the last bit that one should go to for weight loss. What's your point of view on that?
So, something we've been doing for 40 years in endocrinology. Everyone who comes with excess weight and diabetes and what have you, you say, "Oh, you must lose weight, and please do it naturally. We'll give you a diet system, a diet chart. We'll advise you exercise." But the harsh truth is, not just with us. I mean, we may not be the best endocrinologist, but all over the world, we realize that it is exceedingly hard. There is a small fraction of people who can do it very successfully, who can lose weight very successfully. Even out of those, most of them will put it back on. Most of them will put the weight back on. So losing weight and maintaining it is a real challenge. Now we may all say, you'll have these Instagram influencers, who have experimented on themselves and come out with this, everything. You follow my diet. Someone will say have this tea, or someone will say have this whatever. You can actually lose weight very substantially.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can. But as I said, maintaining it is exceedingly hard. Now, uh, when you look at population, when you look at cohorts of people where such strategies have been tried, it is well established scientifically that losing weight is hard and maintaining it is even harder. So, and this happens sometimes. Of course, a lot of it is discipline and just, self control, but a lot of it is beyond the person's control. So blaming the person, you see, even when we were younger and endocrinology was a nascent specialty, developing this, hey, khata bahut hai. Just the fellow eats so much and he comes and trips over here. But actually, the guy may be having a problem. And therefore, there may be two kinds of problems. Number one, if you have two people joining the same weight management program, one may lose weight very substantially, other may lose just, 1 pound or 2 kilos or something like that, The other, the one who responds may lose 10 kilograms. So there's difference between people's metabolism. The second is what has been more and more sort of researched and understood is that the problem lies in our brain circuitry, which means that some people genuinely have cravings they cannot control. And you really can't keep blaming them, and for those who are lean, it's not very nice when they always look or feel about the other person who's obese or overweight, in a sort of, with a smirk and with, I know what you've been up to type of thing. So, but even as doctors, we should be, yeah, the fellow doesn't listen. Yeah, what to do? The thing is that now we realize that it is not always the guy's fault or the lady's fault. There may be a problem there. Now, okay, so what do we do? I mean, we knew the problem for some time. Now you have tools for the first time that act on the gut hormone brain axis to actually curtail your cravings, reduce your food noise, as it were,
Mhm.
all the noise in your head. There are people who, when they get on a flight, are already planning where they're landing, where they're going to have lunch, where's the dinner, where's the best place to eat. There are others, maybe their partners, who are least interested. And it's not just discipline, it's just the way the brain is wired. So we have to think of excess weight as a brain condition, and we have to address it there. And behavioral change is incredibly hard, incredibly. All worldwide studies have shown that. So, but now we have tools that can help these people.
Mhm.
I come from a Gujarati family, so let me tell you that our conversations are only around food. And therefore, I totally relate to it. I also want to understand that are there cultural dynamics which also lead to obesity? So, for example, we build associations in the brain because you said it's brain related. I'm just trying to figure this out. We have celebrations always with mithai, and we have something else which is always with a certain kind of food. So there are so many happy moment associations with food. Does that in part have a role to play with the kind of brain food association that you're talking about?
Well, absolutely. Environment is exceedingly important. We call it an obesogenic environment, meaning an environment that promotes obesity. And environment is determined by culture. So, you know, Japanese are not that obese. Culturally, their food habits are different. Their way of eating food, mindful eating, is important. Their food is like high in protein, not
Right.
fried at all. Just an example. Mediterranean diets, they seem to be eating significantly, but the amount of salads and the amount of greens they have makes them one of the healthiest diets in the world, makes that diet one of the healthiest in the world. And you know that around the Mediterranean, there's the health of people is very good and lifespan is good. So I'm giving examples of culture for sure. And it's the same Caucasians who migrated to the US, and US has the highest rates of obesity in the world. And the reason is that food is just there all around, and the premium on what is called tasty food is always the food that is very rich in calories, and in some sense, crudely put, very unhealthy. So there is a huge impact of culture on that. There's no question about that.
And therefore, coming to, weight management, as we call it, what are those myths that are there in the system which never get bust? And Instagram influencers just add to those myths by, I don't know, by the billions, I think.
So China, in fact, is asking people to be certified. So you can't give medical advice or unless you're a doctor and stuff like that. So you can actually go to prison now. I think that's going to. I think the Chinese are a little ahead in the game.
But Samiran, that is if you're giving medical
But
advice.
I
Here
think
are people giving diet advice left, right, and center.
Ah,
and not only that, in India, it'll be hard to
Exactly.
decide who's a doctor, who's not, because there are many streams of medicine also. So, people will. Anyway, but I think it's a welcome step by China, at least medical advice. Now, the thing is, the thing is that uh, the problem is, Sheetal, actually, that diet advice is very boring. So you've got to be, how do you say crazy things? I mean, you have any amount of mangoes, your blood sugar won't go up. All kinds of stuff you keep hearing from your city also. All people just say whatever they feel like to attract eyeballs to gain viewership. So, and if you say, well, you have to do the same thing, have eggs in the morning and have only a mixed dal chila in the morning, and then you say you have a maybe a roll at lunch, and then you have no carbs at dinner. It's so boring. It's so boring because everyone knows that. Educate people or people who are aware, they know that, right? But the question is, how do you get people involved? So that's why people are fall for these baits. And often there'll be some easy way out. You drop this thing from your diet and you lose all this weight. If you start having this particular concoction or brew, you lose your weight in the morning, empty stomach or whatever. So that is why these things attract attention. But the truth is, it's about total number of calories that go in. The truth is, it is about the proportion of protein, fat, carbohydrate, and very basic stuff. So ultimately, if you're losing weight, you have to be low on calories. There is no other way. Science, biology doesn't allow that. Now, the point here is that there has been a sort of, there have been some research in the 80s which also added to all this confusion. That was the era of lipids, cholesterol, etc. So when cholesterol was discovered cholesterol was discovered a long time back, but discovered as a major risk factor for heart disease, all focus was on cholesterol, right? Now, it was also thought that by controlling dietary fat, you can control cholesterol. If you can control cholesterol by dietary fat, if you can reduce heart attacks by reducing dietary fat, which you to some extent you can, you what do you replace the fats with? So the whole world followed the American formula of replacing fats with carbohydrate,
Ah.
and which has been the worst thing we could have done. So because fats, there are good fats and bad fats, which may, you need the good fats for your body. In carbs also there are good carbs and bad carbs, but people replace the fat with the carbohydrate thinking that they're doing a great thing because fats have more calories than carbs. But what should have been done is should have been bad fats should have been replaced by good fats, and carbs should have been replaced by complex carbohydrate, which is what we're realizing now. But we're realizing it now when the obesity pandemic has struck the whole world almost, or at least the developed world and the developing world. So I think that research also led to medical confusion and maybe some medical advice that was not so appropriate. So that sort of fueled this crisis. But in principle, it is about controlling your total number of calories with adequate protein intake, adequate fiber intake, taking the right amounts of good fats, and ensuring that you're not reducing your sugar refined carb intake to an absolute minimum.
So that's quite fascinating. And therefore, I'm now going to come back to Samiran's original question, which is what the whole world wants to know, really. But before I go there, I have to ask you this question. On Instagram, I'm one of those who has been caught up on social media, where there are these guys who put the sugar
Continuous
monitoring,
glucose monitoring.
continuous glucose monitoring, and then they eat food and then they say, see, this did not result in this did not result in a spike, etc. I personally think that's also individual body, right? Every body reacts differently and metabolizes food differently. Is a CGM a good way for a diabetic to work? Or is that just a stress point? I mean, I don't want to be sitting and mapping it after every meal and figuring out.
I mean, I don't want to be poked on in the
Yeah,
first
no,
place.
it's one poke is fine. It's better than 3 pokes a day. But having said that, what does it do? Because psychologically, it is a complete menace, I think, personally.
So I think CGM is a very sort of important advance for some people. Clearly, people with diabetes who are on multiple insulin shots, those who have risks, those who are at risk for getting a low blood sugar, those who get those spikes after meals, the sugars are not controlled, are clearly candidates for CGM. It's really, really going to help them. There are other diabetics also who are candidates who are on particular drugs that can cause low blood sugar, or even those on even one shot of insulin can be considered candidate. But then there are CGM helps people with diabetes in some ways, uh, even those who don't fulfill these criteria. I mean, these criteria, of course, the fact is that these criteria mean that we recommend CGM. But there are others who are very confused about diets. And as you very rightly pointed out, every body responds differently, little bit differently to similar foods. So if someone wants to know what is good for them and what is not good for them at an individual personal level, then CGM is a great tool. So if I want to educate myself, you know, what really raises my sugar, what causes a spike, putting on a CGM for some time, not forever,
Mm.
will give me a good idea about the food that I can take and the food that I should not take. So I'll give you an example. It also helps us sometimes. So the person is not really in a bad shape, is not a candidate for CGM where it's a medical CGM, you have to take it. But is just not convinced that what he has seen his
Mm.
parents eating dal, roti, chawal, or bread and butter in the morning, or bread without butter in the morning will raise their sugar at all. They don't believe it. People don't. And they are utterly shocked when they put on a CGM and say, oh my God, I had a full meal last evening, nothing happened. And morning I had, bread and cereal, and whoa, there was such a big spike. So in that sense, it is a useful educative tool. We should not become a slave to it. Some people with diabetes, it's clearly indicated. Others for educating themselves about what is really making their sugar spike, and 9 times out of 10 it is refined carbohydrate only. But then people carry it to an extreme where everyone is
Correct.
just putting it up, and using that tool to just keep it within a band. Well, that's okay. We don't know the long-term implications of that. But these are health freaks who are really, all the time doing this stuff. So it's okay, I suppose, so long as you don't become a
Right.
slave to
Because
those
we have a lot of
numbers.
these apps and fitness whatever coaches and all who almost profess and literally enforce that you're not getting results. If you do this, then we can even better micromanage it. But maybe that is true in a sense, but it is not something that needs to be taken up as a necessary tool for weight loss or weight management, I assume.
No, especially if you're not a diabetic looking at weight management, no, you don't necessarily need that tool. But if someone really wants to figure out what's
Hmm.
happening with their body and say, I'm not convinced that chawal will raise my blood sugar, it's very convincing. So, but then you
But
don't
then,
have to be on it forever.
mhm.
You can do 1 2 week stint and get an idea of what's affecting
but
your
that
body
also
adversely. That's
but
all.
it also
So it
means
is
that
possible.
if used, it should be done under some kind of medical supervision and not superficial, like I don't know. I mean, I don't know if fitness instructors and people who are well-being coaches should be the right people, or they doctors should also be consulted at least. I mean, just from a consumption perspective.
Ideally, yes, Amiran. Ideally, yes, but people find that very cumbersome. Doctors are not accessible, and it adds to the money. It adds to, I mean, the expense, and the doctor might just say no.
Oh, you don't
So
want to
that's
hear
also
no?
very
That's another story, isn't
so.
it?
You already know. So I think yes, the key where a doctor is required is in interpretation
Correct.
of that data. If you're getting crazy things, or if your coach is telling you, my God, you went out of this like 5% twice a week or something, then you need to ask a doctor, I mean, what does this actually mean? Is it going to harm me in any way or not? What is the evidence? What is the evidence? So I think for that, yes, interpretation beyond a point
So,
should be by a medical
mhm,
person. And remember, these gadgets are not
Correct.
error free. That's
mhm,
also very important. A very important point is that there is a significant percentage error, and nowadays, of course, the new ones, that comes on the phone
Yeah.
directly. Don't even have to do
Yeah.
that, Sheetal. They just come on the phone directly, right? But false alarms for low blood sugar are not
mm,
uncommon at all. These panic situations that I keep getting calls about are usually nothing. Most of them are nothing, because it tends to underread at times, especially in the lower ranges. Even though there has been huge refinement in technology, but it's still not quite there. So you may get a reading of blood sugar reading of 60, 55, and it's extreme panic.
Correct.
Person is feeling fine. Patient is feeling fine. Nothing wrong. But this is showing that red, this, that, the whole house is, you know, uh, concerned and descending on the person and making him have shahed and this and that and sugar, etc., etc. And actually, when you realize that the sugar was not 55, 60, but 85, and that kind of error is very well known to occur. So then you can get quite misled. So don't become a slave to these tools. Use them to control your diabetes if advised by a doctor. If you're one of those who wants to know more, please use it, but use it for a short period and ask your doctor
mhm.
the interpretation.
So
That's
before
where we
we
go wrong.
jump to that medicine thing, so just one last thing on the this natural or other processes for controlling weight and all. So people advise yoga, intermittent fasting, keto. Then there is Ayurveda. People are like there is this
Mediterranean.
Satrifala and this and that, and of course then there is surgery and all. I mean, do these all have a place somewhere, or some of them are just rubbish? Or because I mean there are all
So
professors for
okay,
all of
so
them actually.
so I think let's structure this a little bit. Primarily, weight loss happens by eating
Mm,
less. Sorry, very crude way to put it,
mm,
but that's how it is. Now, to do that, you may use any tool. You may use intermittent fasting. You may use conventional calorie restricted eating, small frequent meals. You may use a very high fiber diet, which is correct, helpful, so
mhm,
that you don't get cravings. But it is about reducing your calorie intake while balancing
mhm,
your other nutrients. That is the only thing that works. So whether you use a keto diet, I'm not a great fan of keto diets. I mean, you can use them for short periods, but their data on long term is not really established. Number one. Number two, intermittent fasting, yes, is helpful for some people. They are welcome to use it if their doctor agrees. If they're diabetic or have other issues, they should talk to their doctor before starting intermittent fasting. Uh, Ayurveda, no comment. Then, then yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of things. Now, the important point I wanted to make here, that exercise is very important for preserving your muscle and maintaining weight. But
yes,
exercise doesn't make you lose
mhm,
weight significantly. This is another myth. Parents coming with their children and saying, मैं इसको भगा भगा के वजन कम कर दूंगा. भागता नहीं है डॉक्टर साहब, आप इसको डांटते नहीं है. You don't really scold him. He doesn't run. I mean, why should you make him run anyway? So the fact is that while the poor kid is being harassed to exercise, which is to some extent correct, but it will not make him or her lose weight. The weight will only be lost when you
That's true.
know
no, no,
there is
and in fact you're
in
so
essence
correct that exercise, the ability to exercise also goes down with age, right? So if you could run, say for example, 5 miles when you were 25 years old, and now if you're 50, you can just run half a mile. And if you're going to be eating the same food, you just can't consume it. I mean, body metabolism and ability
You can't.
cannot
Because you're,
match exercise. So therefore, it has to fall
yeah,
on zipping the mouth, unfortunately.
yes. But before we, last point is that remember that
Uh-huh.
exercise is very important, and the focus strength training is very good now, especially for people in my age group. Strength training is important because it builds muscle, which has many roles, and we can talk about that separately. But when you lose weight fast, with whatever tool you use, whether it's a medication, a surgery, or even a very very strict diet, you will
Mm.
lose muscle also. And if you lose muscle also, to prevent that, you must do strength training and must have adequate protein.
So, coming to should you use to lose weight or not?
So,
The big question.
so I think you have quoted this somewhere saying that there's, I think the world is made up of two kinds of people: people who don't need it but want to use it, and people who need it but can't be convinced to use it.
Yes, that's a tweet, I think. So that's a reason for writing this book called The Weight Loss Revolution: How to Use, because
Mhm.
they've just arrived in India. And uh, the issue is that it goes back to my first point, and that is that it's a health condition for us, for doctors, for endocrinologists. So if somebody requires to control their diabetes, to help them lose weight, to better control their diabetes, to control their diabetes directly, to reduce their insulin requirement, and to protect
Mhm.
their heart, their liver, and kidney from the effects of diabetes or obesity, those are ideal candidates. And many of them refuse it because they're not aware enough. And only thing they know is what they've seen. Oh, I don't want to take all that, which they've already been taking an earlier version. But now they don't want the newer ones because, I'm scared that they are dangerous. So, on the other hand, there are those people who want to lose 2, 3, 4 kilograms purely for cosmetic purposes. And then they will insist, because money is no consideration for many such people. They will just insist that they want a prescription, and then when you just refuse, it's actually they go back crestfallen and sometimes angry, because they say that they will find a way to, if they want to. It's not that you're the last stop or anything. So I think this is an issue. Uh, we've been using, and I've clarified this in the book very clearly, uh, for
Oh,
20 years. Number one, they are not they are not
Mhm.
a new. We've been using them to treat diabetes with some additional benefit of weight loss. So maybe 3, 4, 5 kilograms, fantastic. They are talking of 15 years ago that work well. They also cause weight loss. Great, right? Now, what happened was that about 10 years ago, they first found that one of those variants, newer molecules called semaglutide, could cause 15% of baseline body weight to be lost. That was a great moment, a defining moment, if you ask me. And because that was the first time we had tools that could make you lose that much weight, that amount of weight, which is something that we really wanted for our patients. So that's, as it is called, that became the sort of the face, or the flag bearer of this movement for weight loss revolution. Did that, you know, and then of course there's and let me tell you, there is lots more in the pipeline. So it's not the end. Now, when we have these tools with us, we are looking at controlling diabetes better, but we are also, in those who do not have diabetes, we are also looking at improving their health by making them or helping them lose weight. And in addition, it's about, it looks externally like weight, but what you're actually doing is you're taking away their visceral fat. If you're taking away their visceral fat, the fat around our organs, then you're also reducing the inflammation. You are reducing all the harmful effects that internal fat produces. And therefore, as I already explained, even in people without a diabetes, they protect the heart, they protect the liver, fatty liver treatment, fantastic, the food for fatty liver. Okay. Uh, Progression of kidney disease, you know, sleep apnea. There's so many things for which are being lined up, and data is coming out on all diseases linked to adiposity or obesity, and all diseases are coming down. So quite clearly, and when I first said this few months ago, people were almost aghast, and they said, "This guy is, talking. I don't know what he's talking about. It's not my research." Now we have a lot of Indian experience. This is well established science. Okay, that these are a revolution. They are going to change the way that chronic non communicable disease is managed across the globe, which is why the WHO has put semaglutide in essential. Unbelievable. Like one of the
But there
essential
is a
drugs.
lot
So
of,
I think that's very
so you
important.
hear a lot of naysayers around these drugs, and there are lots of doctors who also say, oh, one doesn't know what the side effects is. One doesn't know what the long term impact of is. What do you have to say to that?
Yes, I think that's a valid point. But let me first tell you, when it is approved after clinical trials by US FDA, by EMA, and by the you they quite clearly, it is not something that will happen without adequate evidence. So very clearly, the evidence was considered adequate enough to approve. Now, this happens in, I mean, all we don't question why this one got approval, why this. It's simply because these have become so popular, they've caught the public eye. This discussion is going on. Having said that, it's important to remember that we are still thinking of side
Correct.
effects of which you're using for 50 years. So something that emerges down the line, 10 years, 20 years down the line, is, I mean, can't be ruled out. How can we say that? But we can't say that for anything. I mean, just giving an example that everyone will understand. 20 years ago was recommended for everyone over the age of 50 or 60. Everyone. Protective head, take a little bit, no harm done. It'll reduce your risk of heart attack, this, that, stroke. Now we know that can produce problems sometimes if you use it in the wrong people. So this is what science is about. Those kind of things will keep happening. But at the moment, again, having this use this for 20 years, the medical fraternity is pretty certain that there will be nothing really sinister that is hidden. We hope there's nothing, but that question also arises when you think of them as
Correct.
True, true.
when you think of them as treating all these things, preventing them, it's okay. I mean, you will say, okay, that small risk is
Because
there,
then
but
it
I think
becomes a question of trade-offs, right? Because if it's
so.
medical, then it's a question of trade-offs between what you are getting as an advantage versus what would happen if you didn't take it, which is all the plethora of really overweight and heart and kidney
Correct.
and liver and all of that. So I think for those people, like, maybe the decision is easier than it is,
And
or should be easier than it is for the cosmetic users, though the cosmetic users don't think twice before using it. I think that is the other problem.
yes, so
Mhm.
that is the thing, and that's why side effects are being closely monitored. I heard of lawsuits and all, but lawsuits and all will work only if the company hid any side effects. Now, if they're hiding it from us, then I don't know. Then we're all being taken for a ride, but I don't think that's possible. The number of doctors across the world who are involved in trials, for all of them to get together, from multiple countries and multiple experts, and everyone's faking it, I don't think it's going to work. So I think that we should not be unduly scared. We should ask our doctor about side effects. There are Very few hidden side effects. Most of the things, most of the long-term effects that you read about, Sheetal, or Samrat, that you see on social media are the effects of rapid weight loss.
And muscle loss and more.
And yes, so because you're losing now, that those kind of side effects will happen regardless of how you lose weight.
Mm.
So it means something that can be attributed to the molecule per se, which are very few. And of course, the major ones are the gut related side effects, which a lot of people get nausea and maybe even vomiting, sometimes diarrhea, sometimes, so all those things can happen. And they can be distressing for some. People have to be handled through the first few weeks, but they eventually they are manageable and they usually
I
fade
have
away.
to ask you this question. When we started off, we said people go on diets and then the weight comes back, etc. What happens when you take this? Do you have to take it for life? Will you get back the weight if you go off what happens there?
Yes, I mean, every in the world that has been discovered in chronic care, I'm not talking of antibiotics now, but they work as long as you take them. So if you remove from someone who's on treatment, the sugar will go up again. Unless you have made fundamental changes to your physiology by lot of weight loss, lot of exercise, change in lifestyle, then you can potentially go
Mm.
off it. People with diabetes, older people, older, not like very old, but middle-aged and older people with diabetes, they will take it like any anti-diabetic forever. I mean, insulin they take forever. The predecessors of these they were taking forever. So why would they not take it forever? But then there are others who are starting it at a very young age. For polycystic ovary, for just weight loss. There we strongly push them to maintain food diaries, try and ensure that once they've reached their optimum weight, we slowly reduce their medication. And we want to get them off, and we try and ensure that they grasp the fundamentals of the lifestyle effort they have to make. And it works both ways. I mean, you can't generalize for the whole world, but the fact is that there are some people who get so motivated by the weight loss they see, they just don't want it back again. They'll do anything to keep it off. And such people do very well. But then there are others, like the other day, this gentleman tells me that, when I told him, how come you're not exercising and you're eating the wrong stuff? He says, then what's the point of taking this medicine? He says, the point of taking the medicine is I don't want to exercise and I want to eat exactly what I want. So now this shows I eat very little, so I've lost 12 kilograms. If I had to follow all that, I wouldn't be on this. So that is a very, very wrong attitude. I mean, we had a good laugh. I mean, I sort of humored the patient and made him understand. But this kind of attitude can get you to a lot of problem. But if you come with with an attitude that I'm going to fix this and I'm going to use to fix it for me and I'm going to take medical help to do that. If you do that and if you lose weight and if you're doing well, and then you really follow that strictly, then most people, they will still put on a little bit, but not too much, not go back to their baseline. And we also work on a formula of reducing the dose and keeping people on a low maintenance dose for a very long time. The lowest dose, for example, you just keep it on.
So one thing I'm
that
very
also will work.
curious is that
Is
these,
that-
when were they initially researched as diabetes and was weight loss an accidental side effect, or were they always researched with the purpose of making people lose weight? I mean, was it?
No, originally they were anti-diabetic.
Uh-huh.
You're right. Originally they were anti-diabetic with some added benefit
No.
of weight loss.
Mm,
But they found their property and they discovered what
uh,
was causing that. It wasn't the gut action that was thought originally, it was the brain action. So they worked on
mm.
molecules to enhance the brain action while
I
preserving the
was
other part. That's the
no, I was
strong
actually
from a
looking
science.
for a segue for a little joke of mine about washing machines and lassi makers.
Oh, stop it. But it's very interesting because diabetic drugs are not as expensive as can others are. What shifts in the molecule for to become so expensive? Diabetes people are taking for
No,
years and they're not
when
as expensive. They're affordable. What happens here?
no, not when they are launched, Sheetal, not when they are launched. Of course, this question can better be answered by
But
the
it's where in the
companies
life cycle, I think. It's
who
where in the
spend
life
money.
cycle of.
And they have, yeah, yeah, and and people who invested millions and more to develop this, to fund the science, fund the laboratories, or buy it off scientists or laboratories, they would obviously, it's a business world out there, so they would want to rake in their profits for sure. But you're talking about that seem so reasonably priced now, were many of them were very expensive when they came in, very expensive. So I, in this case also, like semaglutide, I understand injectable semaglutide is nearing the end of its patent in another maybe 5 months, 4 months, and the moment that happens, the
Hmm.
prices will crash. And how? They will crash, and they will, and I know for sure that there are numerous Indian manufacturers who possess the capability and who are ready with the molecules, and that will increase the access very dramatically, because right now barrier one big
Correct.
barrier is the price. They're just too high, they're just too expensive. But that will crash dramatically. Now with that,
Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword. I mean, overall it's undoubtedly a very good thing, but on the other hand,
Everybody will
once that
take it.
happens,
absolutely. Everyone will be
misuse and
prescribing
wrong
everywhere.
prescription. I mean, every chemist here gives medication,
Hmm.
right? I mean, at least you move away from the metros, move away from Delhi and Bombay, 100 kilometers out of Delhi, you would find you can pick up
Hmm.
no prescription. And then if you go further down in the hinterland sometime, you will find the panwala, the pan seller giving you medicines for fever and headache and all that. They dispense steroids like pan only. So all those things will be a challenge. So we'll have to see how that pans out.
This has been absolutely fascinating. I mean, I know we've touched a little bit on the tech, but I cannot tell you how fantastic and how engaging this has been. I think we finished more than 45 minutes just like that, and time has just flown. I'm sure.
I will
Go
throw in
ahead. Go
one
ahead.
point.
No,
Sorry,
please.
sorry, sorry. Yeah. No, no, throw in one point before you wind up. And because that's what people will ask all the time about alcohol.
Obviously,
What to
you
do
have
with
more experience
alcohol?
than we do.
Alcohol in these drugs. Most of the FAQs, So that's right. So the thing is that some people develop an acute aversion to. They develop such an acute aversion that people who are fond of them. So some. So it's also been, trials are on, and some have been completed also on the use of this
Oh my God.
substance,
Hmm.
anti-alcohol, for people who are not able to give up alcohol. And the other downside of that is that one of my patients who came to me and said, I said, "You're doing great, Mr. Whatever, let's call him Chadda. Mr. Chadda, you're doing great. And you've lost 15 kilograms, your HbA1c is 6. And it couldn't be better. I haven't seen you like this in 20 years. Then he keeps the file down like that. Kya, Dr. Saab, my life is ruined. I said, why? Because my social life is gone. When I go out with my friends, when I go out with my friends, and we all have decades, they are my school friends. Now the sight of puts me off. So I've become a social outcast. And I have to spend all my evenings with my wife. So that is the
But
downside
is there a reverse this
of these
thing?
drugs. But that's a very
I
interesting
mean,
answer.
just like in
Sorry to
every
interrupt
after
you.
effect, are there people who were not? No,
No, no,
I
not
just
yet.
wanted
Not
to know
yet.
if that works too.
I'm now thinking that along with diabetes, he'll not come to you for diabetes, he'll come to you for blood pressure. Okay, I'm spending all my evenings with my wife. Now my blood pressure has gone. Oh, this is so funny. I'm going to now start rethinking about whether I should take or not because I don't want to give up on alcohol.
Oh man.
Oh, this is so fun. Thank you so much, Dr. Mittal. This has been absolutely fantastic. What a fun conversation and what an informative conversation we've had with you.
No, absolutely. And I think it's so rare to have a balanced view and not have a view which is uh, on one side of the spectrum, that this is good and everything else is bad, and which is where we are with the polarized world, so to speak. Everything is extreme. So but at least this gives people a very good perspective on who it is for, who it is for not, and if you are taking it up, what you should also be signing up for and watch out for. And I think that's a very, very important piece of information to at least have, and not do anything without guidance or an opinion. I mean, self medication is dangerous, and all of that. So I think that was super, super helpful.
Thank you so much. This has been thoroughly enjoyable, and there is lots to learn in this as we go along. But remember, one request to all viewers: don't trash the science and the scientists. I mean, you may still decide what you want to do, but this is huge. This is fantastic science, amazing discoveries, and will go on improving as we
Thank
go
you.
Thank you
along.
Thank
so
you so
Thank
much.
you.
much.